Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. My name is Gurumurthy Yeleswarapu, founder and CEO of Siliconvalley4u. And so this podcast is designed for youth to learn and understand their priorities. And so as part of that, I talk to a lot of guests that I know of, and I worked with some of these guests in the past. And I know them very well and what they do and what they did to impact the community. So yeah, subscribe to the channel so that you get more of these, and also press on the like button. So today we have Peggy Chang, who I worked with for how many years now? Maybe 7, 8, 10 years roughly, something like that. Yeah, so it's been a long time, long time. So, and she's the CEO of ActivityHero. ActivityHero is a marketplace platform for children to find extracurricular activities in the form of camps, classes outside of their school, and also, and she's also obviously a innovator, entrepreneur, and a leader in this particular space. So I'm very, very excited to speak to her because this fits right into what we do, something, freedom to learn, right? In some ways, she's providing that freedom to choose the provider that best suits you. So she's going to talk more about it. And so with that, without any further ado, so welcome, Peggy. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Guru. It's great to chat with you.
Absolutely. So thank you. So let's start, right? Let's start with your journey. I'm pretty sure you had we all have different upbringing, and how did you? I mean, I don't know if you already were in US. You're born here. If you're not, do you come here or whatever it may be? So just paint a picture for us. Your journey so far.
Sure. My parents were the immigrants to the U.S. They came to the U.S. for grad school, and they went to UCLA. So kind of, I grew up with it just seems like everyone's parents went to UCLA, right? That's the world that I came from. They are, I'm Chinese. My parents had come from Taiwan. Of course, they were born in mainland China, fled the communist era, and then came to the U.S. for grad school. So, I was born in the when in an era where there was a lot of immigration, but I grew up in Orange County, so Orange County in the LA area. So I guess I went to public schools that were not super diverse, right? Like I was one of the few Asians in the school. And I guess part of that journey is going to Chinese school on Saturday mornings and wondering why can't I watch cartoons on Saturday morning, right? Because back then we only had cartoons on Saturday morning on linear TV. So we definitely grew up knowing that we were Asian, that we were learning Chinese, that we have a culture. I guess I found myself, kind of finding math and the sciences more interesting and just easier to learn and absorb. So I went to school for my engineering degree, and I went to MIT. So suddenly at MIT, right, I was introduced to a lot more people, right? Like a lot more people like me. So that was really a journey where probably growing up, it was the really sports oriented people and such that were the popular ones, right? The football players, the basketball players of the school, the cheerleaders, right? Then that was not what I was. So So I think at MIT, I probably, got to know more people that were like me, and started to find my way, right? To and maybe, start to build that confidence, right? That if I can survive that place, right, and then I can do anything.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. So wow. So the podcast, that's why I it's interesting for me to talk to all these people. I get to learn a lot more. I used to go to Taiwan quite a bit, just so you know, I used to travel. And yeah, I didn't know that you went to MIT, and the analogy you gave was funny. And usually you hang out with people that into sports and cheerleaders and with with, for lack of better term, we geeky stuff, which I come from too. So I did computer science. Um, and when you went to MIT, I'm pretty sure you found quite a few people that are of your type, and yeah, that would have helped big time. So now, what led you to launch this? Like we are in Silicon Valley. There are so many things potentially you can do. The obvious ones are coming out of MIT. Hey, build another Google, or build this, build that, or unicorns, right? All and so what led you to say, hey, you know what, I want to, I want to build something that helps youth or students, kids, parents. So is there it was built into it, or is something that you developed over a period of time?
I think so yeah, so after college, and then I also went to business school. um, I found myself working as a product manager for different software companies, and essentially solving problems. I do like to solve problems, so that I feel like it takes creativity, it takes persistence. And I was working in different industries, right? Everything from, in some cases, the stock brokerage industry. Like I worked for Charles Schwab for a bit. I worked for the LA Times for a bit. I worked for a transportation and logistics company, right? So, and then I also worked for Intuit on the Quickbooks product. So I
Oh, is
found
it?
yeah, so I found myself working on things where, I was always trying to understand the customer needs and what we needed to build, and working with software team on that. But along the way, right, I had two kids, and in the I just experienced that this this job of parenting is first, very, there are a lot of challenges, right? It's hard to have a full-time job and take care of your kids and do all of these things and try to be a good parent, right? Because you're doing it for the first time, right? So it's kind of hard to learn and do it at the same time. But I found myself, finding that the kids' activities were really a problem spot where I felt like, there's a lot more research, there's a lot more things I should know, but being a working parent, I'm not there at the playground, as often, as and able to talk to other parents and figure out like what type of things are they doing after school or weekends. And then I just felt like it was a very inefficient way to, get information, right? Like, you can go to shopping sites and search for exact things that you're looking for, right? Like a size 8, black shoe, and all these different attributes, right? Like, or you can, find hotels with this certain characteristics, and there just wasn't an easy way to find those camps and classes. So the technology was certainly there. It's just that the information, wasn't organized in the way that was useful for me as a parent, and that's what we decided. I met my co-founder Shilpa, and we decided that yeah, this is something that we feel should be solved. It hasn't been kind of prioritized or solved yet. So we decided to go on this path of helping families that and who of course the families are ultimately trying to help their kids, right? They want their kids to do these
Absolutely.
activities so that they can, you know, find their interests, find the things that they really enjoy, find, you know, make friends, right? All those positive things. So we just wanted to, you know, enable families to be able to, you know, make this easier so that their kids could grow, you know, grow up happy.
And yeah, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned your degree from MIT and also a degree from business school didn't help quite to be a good parent. So you need a different degree. So no, I hear you. See, these are the life skills, right? So that's the nice segue. I mean, I come from a different background, like coming from India, first generation, and a lot of things, a lot of skills I had. Compared to my academic skills, I had, you know, skills on the streets because I grew up on streets
Mm,
and I didn't have much of education, so to speak, because I was not fortunate to be exposed to good schools. You know, in India, they call it convent schools, private schools. They are very expensive. Only, certain demographic can attend. I had to attend public schools, which is not like this, but worse than this. So yeah, so basically, I had to study a lot of subjects that in my native language, even physics and math and chemistry. All I learned in not in English, so that was basically I had to relearn again. Although I knew a lot of these formulas and whatnot. So long story short, um, you know, the life skills is sort of carried me and somehow I ended up in US, which I never planned. I never wrote GIG, TOEFL, none of those. Um, I was the first guy to land in US from my class. Here we go, destiny, I guess. So I learned English here. I landed here. I learned English, and then somehow I, figured out my way out. So now that you're running this activity hero, which is I call it all the skills that are not being taught in schools, so to speak. What is your advice to the parents? In terms of how they go about finding out what really works for their kid, and then identify things that they really love. Meaning, once you know what you are, and then once you find out what you like to do, just like you are doing, it's going to be fine. I mean, there will be ups and downs, but you don't feel that there are ups and downs. But if you end up doing something you don't like, everything seems like down.
mhm.
So at least I've been there, done that. So anyway, what's your advice to the parents to figure this out?
Yeah, great question. I think that finding the right activity for your child and finding something that your child really thrives in, it's really like magic when you find it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Um, because when you see that there's a fit, when that child is inspired by that activity, they're motivated, they have ambitions to, go that next level, right? That's what you want to see, right? You don't want to be the parent that's, pushing them like uphill, right? But that said, I think there is a lot that has to do with potentially the child's personality, right? Like having two kids, there was one child of mine that knew more of what they wanted to do, and so I just needed to follow their lead, right? And enroll them in the types of activities they asked for. And then another child, I had to make more suggestions and try different things, right? A little bit more trial and error. So I think it's really just kind of listening to your children and figuring out if they like something, right? Figuring out what is it that they like about it. Is it the social aspect? Is it the teamwork? Is it the creativity? The challenge, right? And then if they don't like something, right? That's okay to not like something, but figure out what do they not like about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, for example, I learned a lot about, I mean, this is more for my raising my two kids, that when it comes to sports, right, there's a pretty big difference between sports that are, kind of more team oriented and like, um, 5 or 10 players all going after one ball, right? That kind of sport versus something like I think you play tennis, right, Guru? Like,
Yeah.
something like tennis where like no, it's more individual, right? Like the ball's always going to come to you, right? It's either you're, maybe you're playing doubles, but it's not 10 people going after one ball. It's like just one person or two people, right? And it's so those aspects are kind of different. And they might, lend themselves to different personalities. So that from a parent perspective, that's part of my advice is just kind of listening to your kids, and of course your kids are kids, right? Like they may not be able to articulate what it is they like about it, so you may need to kind of intuit or infer some of what they like or don't like, and then keep trying because it's that's also a life's lesson, right? Just figuring out, okay, if this one's not a good fit, figure out why, and let's try something different. There's no harm in trying something, right? If it's an hour class and you don't like it, right? Well, what's the harm, right? It's you can learn from that. So I think that's some of the nice things about extracurriculars, that you can try different things and you can imagine that you're, these different types of people, right? Musicians, artists, builders, or gymnasts, right? Anything that you want to be.
Yeah. No, I think you articulated really well. So yeah, it's a tall order for parents to figure that out, and especially with kids who are in, you know, very communicative. Some do, some don't, and especially if kid is on the side of being reserved. It's kind of challenging to figure that out, but then it's like you say, intuitive for use all those, and most of the times the things I've seen is they get lucky, they ran into it, boom, that clicks, and the rest is all history.
Yep.
Um, and so, but here is the deal, right? Regardless of what happens, so my take of, we all know this, but this is, I call it insanity. We try the same thing and expect different results. So there is a huge gap between industry as in not only tech, anything, real world, and the education system. So
Mhm.
you being in the education system, leading one of the successful companies in Bay Area, um, how do you bridge that gap? Meaning, I interview people. I just interviewed just right before this podcast. Master's degree, 7 years experience. So I'm wondering where did all go? It's not about some technical skills. None of those. We haven't even been there. I'm just talking about regular stuff. And I guess the intangible skills,
Yes.
and we call it all these buzzwords we use: communication, connect the dots, and yada yada. But second thing is, there are some mandatory things, not skills necessarily, things you must do to be, successful as a student, as well as a generally professional, which is like fitness. Are you mentally fit, physically fit? Mandatory. Period. Even if you fail in math, I'm okay if you're fit. You figure out a way to pass next time because you have the energy to deal with it. I'm not suggesting anybody to fail in math, by the way. But then, schools never told me, hey, they told me that if I don't get certain marks, a certain score in certain subjects, I fail. But they never told me to do 20 push-ups. If I don't, I fail. Nobody did that. And, whoever figured out that, hey, I got to do push-ups, they're okay. Whoever didn't realize that, they're paying the price right now through doctor appointments, right? So long, you make all this money, and the parking lots are full. If you go to any clinics, they have this Sutter Medical Health. They have valet parking. I was telling them that's not a good sign, man. You shouldn't have so many patients. You don't brag that you have valet parking. So anyway, long story short, how do what do you suggest to this student community and parents to some degree to bridge the gap? And anything that comes to your mind, have you ever thought about it?
Yeah, and I think that's great observation. What I think is that the school's teaching us a lot of foundational skills, right? The even the assessments that schools give, right? They want to make sure that you know your basic math, they know that how to write, how to read, right? And so I feel like those are foundational skills, right? That everyone should have. Um, and so school plays that role, right, in making sure that we all have this, all students have this minimum foundation, and kind of maybe in other words, like almost like how to learn, right? Like
Right.
um, of course, these days with the internet and now, AI,
Chat
um,
GPT.
yeah, we don't need to remember all these facts, right, anymore. But we need to know, we need to learn how to process it, right, and how to use it. And so those are still some skills that we use. So I think like you said, bridging the gap is is around putting those skills into use, right? Combining them into something that's used in real life. And like you said, right, you learned street smarts, right, from doing things that were probably necessary to live and to thrive, right, in your environment. And for those of us who are all like lucky and don't have to work at a young age, right, don't have too many responsibilities other than our schoolwork. I think that's where the extracurriculars can help bridge that gap, because it's saying yeah, let's try to build some of these skills, right? Let's take those foundational skills and build other skills like teamwork, like working with others, or um, like problem solving, things like that you can't just answer on a piece of paper. So I'll give you an example. For me, that the extracurricular that really shaped me as kind of launched me as in my abilities was in high school, and it was the high school newspaper.
Mm,
And I originally, I guess I heard the newspaper team was kind of almost recruiting for members, right? And they went to the honors English class, right? And they were trying to get people to join the newspaper, and then and one of the selling points, that at least the one that I remember, was they said, "Oh, and by the way, this looks good on your college application," right? So I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. So what I found though was yes, I mean, like, again, I don't know if it did help with the college application, but the experience was so transformative to me, because it was a place where students it's almost a business, right? Students were publishing the newspaper every 3 weeks, and there was a specific deadline, right? The printer needed the copy, and the photos and everything, all the layout, by a certain time each week. And and then we'd see, right, Friday morning we'd see other students in the hallway with the newspaper in their hand. So it's very tangible, and it really taught us that when we're working with just students, right, there wasn't a teacher, or no adults in really, other than the printer, right, no adults really involved in helping us produce this piece. So we were taught by the juniors and the seniors, right? The older students had learned from their peers and mentors. So we were kind of teaching each other, and so that's what was really a unique experience, or because it is much like the business world, right? Where everybody's around, maybe could be around the same age, yet there's some people who have risen and are able to teach and mentor others, and there's some who are still learning, right? And it doesn't and it doesn't matter like about the hierarchy. It just what matters is the goal, right? And for us, that was
Yeah.
the deadline, right? That was always, we gotta kind of prioritize and work together and meet those deadlines and produce the best paper we could.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. This is I always say this, right? In other podcasts and in general to my folks. When you get lucky and you latch onto something like this, that allows you to figure out your career options, and if you really like what you latched onto, you become very good. For instance, if Michael Jordan was born in, let's say, in India, I don't know what it would have been. There's no basketball there. He was lucky to be here, and he was lucky to be, in a system where there's huge lot of basketball, and he became, whatever, right, one of the best. And I guess for those who don't have those options, meaning there is no easy way to figure out, then something like your platform can help them to see at least and say, hey, oh, I can try all these different things. For instance, I'll give myself a little bit of something like what you said. I once I got an interview from Michigan, Lansing, and somebody interviewed me, and then next day they said I'm selected.
Hmm.
First, I thought the whole thing is scam, and they asked very few questions, like 5, 6 questions. I felt they were very easy,
Mm.
and then they said you're hired. Okay, so is this true or is it a scam? So anyway, long story short, like one thing led to another. I had a visa, U.S. visa,
Mm.
and then but and then I'm sitting there. I was in India for 3 months after I got my visa because nobody called. I didn't care either because I was just doing whatever they asked me to do. Okay, now I got the visa, let them call, right? So now suddenly I realized that my English is not very great.
Mm.
So I followed this cricketer. There's a cricketer, big name in India. And that guy, I was listening to radio, transistor, and I heard he was endorsed. He's also like me, he can't speak good English. Even today my English is better than him, let's put it that way. So he was endorsing this book, Rapidex. I still remember. Man, I got lucky in my village. There was one book in somebody's house. I took the book, I read. I was so focused to learn, and because of the fear of surviving, I guess. I learned English. I mean, I don't know if it was broken or not. I was talking. People were responding. I was saying whatever that comes to my mind, and I was able to communicate, and they were responding to me. They were able to understand whatever I was saying. That gave me tremendous confidence that I can speak. Because by then I know how to read and write, but I just don't have spoken English because I never spoke to anyone ever. Uh, and then when I landed in New York, to go to Michigan, same thing. I mean, I landed here, I didn't understand anything they were saying, accent. So, some of the gestures, there was a lot of confusion, but I was confident enough to deal with it. And somehow they were able to understand. I vividly remember I had to order food first time ever in US. She said, "Do you want a?" I didn't understand egg. She
Mm.
ordered. So we distinctly pronounced. Uh, so anyway, when I understood, she was laughing. So yeah. So slowly, one thing. Bottom line is, like you said, um, if you get an option where that triggers for better things in life, that's the best. But many, I mean, when I look around on 680, people on freeways, a lot of them don't want to go to office.
Mhm.
So especially Monday morning, but they do because of obvious reasons. The reason I think I've done that too, and the reason is that they ended up doing something they don't like.
Mm.
So, and as a result, they just drag themselves to work, and also it kind of becomes a mediocre lifestyle. Whether you call it work or your day becomes mediocre because you just don't want to be there. And then, and on top of that, companies say, "Oh, let's do a picnic." Why in the world, man? I see you for 5 days, and why I don't want to see you again on the Saturday. People used to say that out loud. I was there in those scenarios. I don't want to see you guys again on Saturday. So I guess the reason I'm mentioning all these is that um, to as part of the building the gap, um, bridging the gap rather. If they identify, what really works for them, like what you do today, for instance, you get up in the morning, you are you go all out to make Activity Hero very successful, and that gives you joy, and that's called life, and eventually, money follows. Um, but then any other thing that can potentially lead to unhappiness can lead to other things that you don't want. Then what we are doing, I mean, what are we doing with all this? Because you invest 20 years in something called education. 20 years. It's not like 2 years 6 months program. Okay, they taught me basics. Okay, I'm good, let's go with that. 20 years. I mean, I agree with the elementary school and lower middle school. Yes, there are some basics, some math, this, that. After that, everything that you learn, if that's not going to be useful for you, you're wasting your life, is my opinion. And um, the I guess in order to bridge the gap, if there is a means for a parent and a student to figure out what really works for them, that will be great. So the reason I'm bringing up all this is, Activity Hero, some of the options that you have, just like I found a Rapidex, they can find something that just lead to a better life and comfortable life, rather. Whether it's better or not, you'll never know, I guess. So with that, we again, like, fast forward with all these things, people, we always say, hey, everybody has to be a leader. um I heard that. I can speak for myself very honestly. When I was in schools, early on, when I started working, leader for me is like there is a person, there are a bunch of people underneath him, and like Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was the leader, right? I read that over and over to pass the exams. And in my opinion, leader means, you have to go and get the freedom for the country.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so or something, whatever the example say, I took it literally. Okay. So, but the leadership, true leadership, now I have some sense of it. And obviously, from your point of view, how do you define, and especially for youth, what leader means for them, and how they can build those intangible skills that you can't be a leader by reading books. Reading books might help, but you still have to figure out your own formula. So can you talk more about it?
Yeah, well, I think maybe, at least for me, to be a leader, I think you first have to believe in your goal, right? What's the journey that you're choosing, right? Because I personally, that's personally very important to me, because I can't make myself do something that I don't that I fundamentally, right, like don't like doing, right? So
Right.
you have to, I feel like, if a leader, needs to believe in their cause, needs to believe in the value that they're bringing, that there's a meaningful problem they're trying to solve, and by then sharing with their team, each person has such a can make such a big contribution, right? It's such a significant part of making, solving that problem or reaching that goal, right? And so, I think a leader is someone who, really tries to make each person, right, uh, fill their needs, right, that finds the right fit of work for their personality, for their interests, and helps them, have healthy challenges, right, to grow and to develop the skills that they want to that they're interested in. So that's what I feel like has helped with during my journey is the leaders who took an interest in me and what I actually enjoy, what I want to work on, were the ones that I worked hardest for, right? That sometimes people will say, if when people quit, they're not quitting the company, right? They're quitting their boss, right? They're quitting on their manager because they didn't have that
Yeah.
connection. And
Right,
so
right.
I kind of know that was sometimes the case, right, in my journey, and so I want to be that type of person for that type of leader for my team, and really treat that I'm as interested in their growth and their happiness as I am in my own.
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, I think you touched upon several points that are very, very important for anybody, not only for youth. One thing I like to add is that what I thought this is my opinion, is I learned very late, is leader can also be a follower, at least uh, either in the beginning or at some point. You at the end of the day, you being a follower or leader, if you are able to make things better, like you said, make your subordinates better, and in some cases, or you make your boss better, make boss look better, and all those things, in my opinion, comes from the leadership. And um, as a leader, as you rightfully said, I think they somehow as the way to figure out what works best for them, and they just stay with it forever. And some of the big names that you hear, because they have done that for extended period of time, and obviously in some cases they just dedicated their lives. I guess all these things, why would they help for a young guy? Just to give a self-esteem, and give that confidence that you're going to have ups and downs, and you're going to fail. Regardless, you're going to fail in something. When you fail, how do you come back up? Having these intangible skills gives that ability and strength to figure it out, and sometimes take advantage of those failures. um, so that's the generally sense I want you to learn from you, especially guests like you, and we have been doing this for a long time, and making it very successful. So last question, it's a fun question now. Um, and do you have any piece of technology or piece of thing that you have? I mean, you wish you had, that makes your life better. It can be something type Star Wars type thing, or something that's you can potentially use day to day. I'll give an example. For me, if my mom lives in India, if I can go to India in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
See, because it's been 30 years, we are talking about, AI and yada, yada, so much change. Flights didn't change. The same duration,
Yep.
same layover, same headaches, like all same crap. And sorry to use the bad word, but why in the world nobody's doing any research there, and we are going to Mars? Why? Just go to India first. So let's go to India, China, Taiwan quickly, and then go somewhere else. We are not able to drag ourselves horizontally. Why you want to go vertically somewhere else? So anyway, jokes apart, do you have anything that that
Yeah,
comes
no,
to your mind?
well, that's a very good one. I have thought about it, that, if we could just be more like Star Trek and just, beam ourselves somewhere, that would be very convenient for travel. I guess the one what comes to mind when you mentioned that, if I could, would probably be a technology that can turn our thoughts into, and just put it into writing, right? Because I don't know if you're like me, like sometimes in the middle of the night, you might wake up and have some thoughts, right? Or the first thing in the morning, you have these thoughts, and at the time you think this is brilliant, right? Like I got to remember this, right? And sometimes you just don't remember it, or you're driving in the car, and you have your to-do list, or you have your thoughts about what you should, you want to contact somebody, and so I would just wish, you know, um, we could turn that into writing. And I know that the text to, or speech to text technology is there, but for some reason I just want it like even quicker. I don't even want to have to hear my own voice. I just want to go from my brain straight to reading.
Yeah. Hey, I won't be surprised one of these days this can happen, and the world is changing real fast. I was telling somebody yesterday, who was I saying? Yeah, one of our students. She's going to be our intern. So I was telling her that uh, her younger sister, who is in high school or something, I was telling her she never have to drive again. In 5 to 10 years, most probably you don't need driver's license anymore. DMVs, they can just give an ID. That's pretty much it, and you're not going to drive. So world is changing super fast. It's going to be very interesting. In fact, I had 8 of them, college students, who undergrad students who just graduated, and we did a roundtable type thing, where the world is going to be next 5 years.
Mm,
During holidays, I did. It's crazy. I mean, when you hear from them, it's, you see, you have kids. I don't know how much you conversate on these topics. I don't know how much they open up. Um, the way they look at the world is entirely different. It's very confusing. I had to, once in a while, I had to pause and say, "Come again?" Like, why are we talking about it? So the guy was talking about agriculture. He thinks that we may not have enough food one day if we go down this path.
okay.
Okay, so he has a theory, and he's saying, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
You take a lot of things for granted. I guess we just go to the safe way, you'll get the food. So apparently that's not the case. So they're going to be on my podcast, maybe in small groups. I'm doing one, I think, the last week of this month. Um, I think the content they're bringing is tremendous, and it's very, for me, it's very, I'm very passionate about it, and it's very, how do you say it, intriguing, or fascinating to know how they look at it, because we have looked at it in a certain way, and for many years now. And with all due respect to schools, they haven't changed much
Mm,
for however many number of years now. I don't know about MIT, but I can speak for a lot of schools. Yes, they made some changes. They did this, that, but the you said the word learning to learn. I don't think schools are teaching, with all due respect. They don't teach how to learn. I mean, they, at least for me, they taught me how to by heart. Memorize everything and then just release in the exam and forget about it right after the exam. And a lot of things that I learned in schools never used
that's
ever. I
that's
no,
true. I
I
think that
never
as
used.
a student, you realize what you're doing is learning to learn. But yeah, you have to teach yourself that. You have to teach yourself, how do you learn, right? Because
How do you learn?
yeah.
Because the world was dynamic, and now world is going to be extremely dynamic. As you can see, you are in the thick of the things. I'll give one analogy. I don't know if you ever thought about it that way. This is my, I was telling somebody yesterday, when we I'm putting you and I in the same era. Okay, so sorry if you're younger than me. When we started, we were a lot of people, a lot of human beings, and then we started with some technologies, simple processor 8085. I started. and then yada yada, these C, C++, Java, and slowly we fattened the technology to the point where technology is replacing us now, right? And the technology was very thin. We were fat. We were thicker. Like we were a lot of people. Now technology is kind of took over. If now I think the next cycle is there is a tremendous amount of appetite for developing human beings, make these guys fat again, because we are getting thinner, and technology became so fat to the point where there's no control, and it's doing everything for us. Sales calls, it does anything, everything, manufacturing, everything. I mean, they're giving prescriptions, crazy. It's like, so any use case in the future, I think that your business also fits into that model. Any use case that helps the human being is going to be a unicorn going forward. So AI can bring everything. Let's say if I want to work out, I want to run. Let's say I want to run half marathon. It gives everything, right? It gives you, everything about how to do it, nutrition, but I still have to run.
Mhm.
Somebody has to make me run, and I still have to run, right? I have to run 13 miles. That part is not going to be replaced by AI. So anything that a human being's development, health, mostly health-wise, both physical and mental, and anything that brings joy, right? Because of all these things, especially younger generation, they lost the human touch, relatively speaking. I mean, they are more interested in device texting than, even if you come across, they don't even say hello. They just look down and keep going. We all know that. So somebody was saying, you and I used to go to Starbucks for Wi-Fi back when they started, because we wanted connectivity. Now connectivity is with you 24/7. Now you're going to go to Starbucks to connect with other people. So Starbucks is going to change business model. They'll bring a lot of people. You go and then meet with them, because if you're at home, you're not meeting anyone because you're with your device all the time. So that's an interesting observation. I don't disagree. I don't know if it happens or not. We'll see. So these are the things that I call it gap between academics and the real world is they are being trained in certain way with all these devices, and I call it static systems in the schools. You have this curriculum, there is exam, there is semester, yada yada, and then you pass, you fail, you pass, you pass, you pass, you pass. Oh my goodness, 20 years, and then you're oriented in a certain way. Now suddenly you're joined this company, Cisco, and Cisco says work with this guy, and then you go there, you don't even know how to ask that guy. What do you do? I mean, the guy says something, you don't understand what he's saying. So this problem shouldn't be there today. It was there 30 years ago, maybe understandable, but now with all the evolution that happened, so much information that you have, things should have been much, much better, because when you finish the academics, you should have all these tangible and intangible skills, is what. That's why I named my company Siliconvalley4u, because to bring that culture, not learning programming. It's about having that culture to build something. And learning that culture is more important than Java. Java you can learn. You don't need any of our camps. You can go to YouTube and learn. But what we won't be able to get on YouTube is what do you do with the Java. And then if I have a coffee business, develop something that helps me to grow. If you can make sense of it, you're going to do well. And if you can, then you're going to work for somebody for a long time. so that's the general idea of leadership and all these buzzwords we like to use. I'm sorry, I'm talking more than you. You should be talking, and I shouldn't be, but this is something I'm also working on. Thank you very much. I know we reached the time limit. So as I said before, we can do another one purely on ActivityHero. I know I wanted to ask about the landscape of after school programs, how you see it. If you can spend a minute explaining that, we can wrap it up with that, and then we can do a sequel purely on ActivityHero next one.
Sure. Yeah, so I feel like a lot of the popular activities or camps, it kind of follows mainstream culture in a way, right? So, for instance, I fully expect to see Wicked, summer camps coming up, right? Because
Right.
Wicked movie was so popular. And so that typically happens, right? Popular movies become, the theme of some theater camps or maybe music camps. Meanwhile, something like the popular video games, right? Or in terms of building video games, right? Like when Minecraft became popular, then there became Minecraft camps, right? Because of, as a means of teaching Java, right? Since it's Java based. And now there's Roblox, right? So some of these things just kind of follow what's happening, right? Because probably we're trying to tap into what are kids interested in today, right? If there's Lionel Messi and soccer World Cup, right? Then maybe that starts to feed more soccer players, right? So a lot of those things are expected. I think the maybe the more interesting things would be also the funding sources for after school activities. We're seeing that there's more public funding, in other words, more state and federal funding for after school programs and even summer programs than there was before. Just like there was, free and reduced lunch was at first really only for low income students or low income families, and now right there's some states or some counties that are making it universal free lunch, right? Because we shouldn't have to segment, right? That and we should, everybody gets this. So that is a change that could happen, right? Of course, it's going to depend on who's in office at the state level or the federal level. But I think that could be some interesting things so that it's more equitable. Everybody gets access. And so I think obviously even if there's this funding, I think the parents' interest in having their kids involved in something other than school and academics is going to be there, right? Potentially even more, right? Like we know that, so the college admissions process, people will talk about they're looking for those passion projects, or they're looking for people who've gone deep. So there's definitely some programs that you can pay for, and they will tell you that they can help your student through this. But I personally hope that more families find, there more kids find their own way, towards that, or that, this is just not a competition in this way, right? That kids are genuinely trying to are finding things that they're interested in, right? For their own reasons, right? Like I told you my story of why I joined the newspaper. It was initially for that college thing, but soon when you start to like it, right? If they told you, oh,
Yeah.
this was bad for your college application, right? You can't help yourself. You would still be
You-
doing it. So
Correct.
so that's probably the test, right? Can you do it for its own merit and for the joy in itself? And that's like what I hope families can get into. So yeah,
Yeah,
so we hope that that after school and summer programs will be accessible for more families, regardless of income.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So thank you very much, Peggy, and it's very, very resourceful, and I learned quite a bit about you, by the way, which I didn't know before. And yeah, so like I said, we'll do another one soon, and I really, really, really appreciate your time. Hopefully, people who are listening to this, they learn from you and build something like what you're doing, and sooner than later. So so thank you, thanks a lot.
Nice to talk to you, Guru. Thank you.
Yeah.